Welcome to Taking the High Road, a special show dedicated to the trucking industry, specifically at the confluence of recruiting, retention, and compliance. In the 4th year as the host of this show, I bring over 2 decades of industry experience, both on the carrier side as well as the vendor side. And each week I interview industry experts and thought leaders who bring their insight to the driver lifecycle as we discuss the industry's greatest challenges. I always appreciate your feedback, good or bad. Don't forget to rate and review Taking the High Road on your preferred platform. I'd also like to thank and highlight the show's valuable sponsors. Their dedication and commitment to the industry and to the show is greatly appreciated. And if you're interested in being a sponsor of Taking the High Road or joining me for an interview, please email jeremy@takingthehighroad.com. Now, this week, I'm excited to be joined by a recruiting and retention leader who's become a great friend the past few years, Jason Douglas, Director of Retention and Recruiting with Utah-based Stokes Trucking, LLC. Great to have you on the show, Jason.
Hey, Jeremy. It's been a while since I've been preparing for this, so I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm excited too. Love your passion, love your energy. I certainly want to get into your background. What got you into the trucking industry? I've got to know you pretty well, and have a unique and extremely admirable drive. And I'd love to talk about that. As I tell you all the time, you're a beast. We can talk about how that translates to your work and your personal life as well. And I'd like to share. Well, I also want to make sure that we get into Stokes Trucking, and talk about the inspiring work that you're doing there and how you're leveraging video to resonate and attract driver applicants. And then lastly, we'll answer a question from a listener during our deeper dive segment. Does that all work for you?
That sounds great, man.
Sweet. All right. Well, as you probably know, I start every conversation with a book recommendation. So if you happen to have one that you might be able to share with the audience, that'd be great.
Yeah, I tried to decide which angle to go from, and the sales side of me and the discipline side of me wanted to go with good old Brian Tracy. So the book is No Excuses, The Power of Self-Discipline. So anybody that's done summer sales, cold calling, they know who Brian Tracy is. He's kind of a guru of that type of area. And the reason why I like it so much is because it starts with self-discipline, and willpower is the basis of what you are. And it brings in things that are super important to me, such as integrity, and it all aligns together to connect yourself with discipline. If you don't have integrity, you're not going to hold yourself accountable, right? So it was a really good read or listen, as I like to listen to them. So.
Well, I love that. And that actually is right up your alley in terms of, like, when I think of you, I think of somebody who's got incredible self-discipline and integrity. So we'll get into some of that stuff. That's why, as I say, you're a beast. Let's, by the way, I'll add that book. I'm not familiar with that. I don't think I've read it. So I'll add that to my Goodreads.
Well, did you know, Jeremy, what percentage of adults would you say write goals down? According to Brian Tracy. Yeah, 3%.
Wow.
So I write them up big on my mirror. I have, my goals that I have. I make sure that they're all in front of me, and I see them and they remind me of them, because big scary goals are good, no matter what they are.
Well, and it keeps it in front of you, right? Keeps it in front of you, and it keeps you focused. I mean, that's just good advice. And maybe that's a good segue into just really who is Jason Douglas, and how did you get your start in the trucking industry?
Well, the Jason Douglas today is a much different Jason Douglas that started in the industry. I've made a huge transformation, but it started back in 2008. I worked for a plumbing supply company, and I delivered plumbing supplies. So I would I'd load the trucks at night, and then the next day I'd come in and deliver tub showers and Class B and stuff like that. And what really kind of got me hooked is there was a hierarchy. The way that people treated drivers was much different than people in the office. And I remember as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old thinking, man, if I ever make it big or I get bigger, I'm going to make sure these people are treated with respect, and there's an even playing field. And they get every advantage that people in the office do. When there's lunch, nobody's left out. When there's benefits or hoodies or T-shirts, it's for everybody. As far as I'm concerned, everybody that works where I work now we're coworkers. There's no hierarchy, and I think it has to be treated that way. So I went from working there for 3 or 4 years, and I went straight into dispatch. I went to a 100 truck fleet over the road, and I dispatched there for 2 years, from the end of 2009 to 2012. Wasn't a huge fan of dispatching. It's hard. It's hard. It's especially hard if it's not set up for you to have full control over the drivers that you're managing, because somebody just sends in loads and that's all you have to choose from, and you have no say. You're just kind of a middleman in between what's coming in, load planners, and the drivers. So I wanted to move up from that, and unfortunately at the time there was nowhere for me there. So I had a friend working at a place that was doing well, and I went to work for, it's called Truckers B2B, and it's actually WEX, the fuel card. So I went to go work for there, and they had a tire program. So I cold called for 2 years. And Jeremy, I'll tell you what, if you haven't worked retail or cold calling for 2 years, you need to. I'm going to make sure my kids do. I'm going to make sure you've got to get the grind. You got to make 50 to 60 calls a day. You got to be able to handle rejection. You got to be able to know that it's not personal, that one, you're reaching somebody at the wrong day, and sometimes you reach somebody at the right day and you make that huge sale. So the key takeaway from doing that type of work is persistence. And then from there, at 2014, I got a call up and they wanted me to come and recruit, and I kind of built the recruiting program from the ground up. They didn't have an applicant tracking system or really any advertising avenues in place. So I started doing that, and 2018, one of the owners retired, and I took his spot at safety and continued my roles recruiting, and I oversaw 3 recruiters, and okay, not okay, helped try to kind of teach them along. And then in 2022, I was contacted by a third-party recruiter that told me that Stokes Trucking was looking for not necessarily a recruiter, but a retention guy. And it took me a minute to grasp this. And I was like, well, you want me to do the same thing and come over there and keep drivers from quitting? And they're like, yeah. So when I came and met everybody and we got on the same page, it was a no-brainer that it was a good fit for me. So I've been here for a year and a half. I obviously still take care of the recruiting and keep the trucks full, but they had 36 drivers, a few empty trucks, 4 or 5, and they were growing that year, and I filled the trucks pretty quick, and now here we are with 50 drivers and growing 15% this year, and a waiting list of drivers with 14% turnover.
That's great. I want to unpack that some more when we talk about Stokes, but I can't help, since we're still talking about you, like I keep saying, you're a beast. As we got to know each other and started talking about like health and fitness, and that's when I realized you're on another level. I'd say rain or shine or snow, right? You're getting after it. And so
yes, sir.
I respect that a ton. I know it takes a lot of discipline. And so, just curious, what's your motivation? Because you're not talking about that when you're talking about, kind of your path into the trucking industry. So what's your motivation to maintain that level of discipline and fitness? What's your why?
My why is I was getting burnout, really burnout. It was hard to take over safety and recruiting. At one time those recruiters left. So it was just me doing recruiting and safety of a 100 truck fleet and all the other little hats that were inside that. So I was running still, but not as much as I'd like to. And I found out that I was drinking more than I wanted to on the weekends, and that would bleed into the morning runs that I wanted to do and the morning bike rides. So I haven't had a drink in over 3 years. And that brought back my running. And I decided I wanted to do a half marathon and get into that. And I ran it in an hour and 30 minutes. And then I decided I wanted to see what I could really do. So I hired a coach, and I wake up at 3 a.m. every morning, I stretch, and I start my run by 3:30ish. If it's a lifting day, I'm at the gym at that time. And it becomes addicting, the mentality of nothing can stop you or take you down. I feel like that. And, whether you hit your goals, I'm not trying to be the next Usain Bolt or anything like that. I'm trying to be the best Jason Douglas. So my why is to be a better me. And in return, I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better employee. I used to be the king of procrastinating. That's almost been eliminated. It's insane. I've adopted the 10-minute rule. If I see something that I would normally procrastinate on and I can do it in 10 minutes, get it done right then. And that has just helped me immensely. So things like that, that fitness has taught me. And I want to live longer. I want to be healthy. I want to help people in the industry live longer and be healthy. And we'll get into that further down the road. But my why for that is just to be a better Jason Douglas. And it's really brought out the best in me for sure.
Yeah, I love it. And there's a quote tattooed on your side. What does that say? And what does that mean to you?
It says, you can't cheat the grind. It knows how much you've invested, and it won't give you anything you haven't worked for, which is a reminder to me in all aspects. You're not going to have a good relationship with your spouse or with your children or with your employer, or, I'm not going to qualify for Boston. Stuff just doesn't fall out of the tree. I wasn't handed a silver spoon, and, my mom wouldn't buy me Nikes. Well, not that she wouldn't, but I had a really small budget. So I started working in 3rd, 4th grade. I started mowing lawns, and I paid for, the skateboards and the snowboards and the stuff that I wanted to do because I had expensive hobbies and expensive taste in clothing and this and that. So nobody's going to give you anything. You got to get out there and take it.
And that's the grind. You're talking about the grind. And
and that's the cold calling and the door-to-door sales, and I love it. It stuff that people shy down from it. Just by showing up in today's market, you're an okay employee. If you don't call in sick, you're considered okay. Like, they'll be in a meeting and they'll be like, "Oh, what about Johnson over there?" Well, he shows up every day. You're right. Let's keep him. So
yeah,
we live in a time where you should be above the bar, because the bar is set so low. People that have high expectations and high performers, it's ripe for the taking for us to come in and overachieve and show up.
So let's switching gears here. Let's talk about Stokes, right? Can you share a bit about Utah-based Stokes Trucking LLC?
Yeah. So Val Stokes was the founder here in 1979. He sits in a cubicle right next to me. It's important that we mingle with everybody as they come in, and the culture just really starts from the top down. There's so many things, and in the interview, that's really what they wanted me to help do for retention, is create a culture where drivers want to stay. And they already had that, but they wanted, as they grow, there would be more people that more personalities, because we live in a rural farm area. So that only goes so far, right? With a couple trucking companies around here. So as we expand, even I've brought on people that they're not used to. And I've had to kind of bridge the gap of, look, this guy's a good, safe driver. He just talks a lot. You're not used to it, to the dispatch, but there's common ground, and kind of work through that relationship. But as far as Stokes goes, the culture here is unreal, and it's been a really good place to work.
Now, you're the director of retention and recruiting, and just full disclosure to the audience, you're also a customer of Driverreach, the company I founded and have been for years. What's your philosophy when it comes to recruiting and retention? By the way, your title is Director of Retention and Recruiting versus the other way around.
Yeah.
Is that intentional as a point of emphasis?
Yes, it is, because when I came in here and they told me, they're a well-oiled machine. Our drivers are home every week. They run their 11 hours a day, but they're home every week, and most of them every weekend. So I was sitting here like, oh yeah, I can fill your empty trucks tomorrow if you give me a phone and I'll call. So they said, okay, you can fill them, but can you keep them? So they've let me implement quite a bit of programs that are dear to me, like an EAP program, which I'll keep going down the list here. But the EAP program was important to me through mental health, what people are going through right now. It is a crisis. And we had a driver that had a problem on a Friday night, and he called me, and it was a big problem. And I talked to him for about 2 hours, and he says, I want to try that EAP program. And there's a local counselor that I had here that'll do Zoom meetings, or phone calls, or even in person. And I sent her a text, and she says, I got him in Sunday morning. So 2 days later, when he needed help most, he was in. And if we could just help one person for the programs that we implement, it's more than enough. And Stokes pays for that 100%. It's available to all of our drivers out on the road. So that's why I'm retention, and that kind of brought that in. And then back to my philosophy is I would rather have a empty truck than the wrong person in the truck. So I'm vetting, and I'm very strict, and they're very strict. My general manager, Mark Lover, he's always like, you didn't think it'd be this hard, would you? Because I know what he's going to say no to. So I'm like, man, I have a pile this big of no's. So for some stats for you through Driverreach, well, I'll go through my philosophy. I'll help some of your new recruiters out there. I listen more than I talk. If you just go into blah, 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 they've heard it. It's redundant. My first question is, hey, how's it going? And then I go right into, tell me what you're looking for. And I let them talk. And sometimes I'll talk for 10, 15 minutes before I just, keep the conversation going. But in my mind, I'm making mental check notes of, is this person a good fit? Are we a good fit for each other? And then what are you doing now? And then that's kind of how I start to qualify them a little bit. And what have you done in the past? And that way I'm not wasting any more time of mine or theirs, because theirs is important too. So empathy is such a big part of recruiting and retention. If you don't have that, what do you really have? I mean, you have to bring that there. Yeah, you're going to struggle. And I think that's why it's so, I've refound my passion for it. And I'm not in the trucking or the recruiting business. I'm in the people business. And that's how we treat them here. I've seen Stokes do things as a whole, all of us here, that nobody else does. And that's why our trucks are full, and that's why we have a waiting list.
Well, and I've noticed a significant increase in content too, specifically video. I think I mentioned at the top, looks like you and the team, at Stokes are having a lot of fun. Are you able to share any measurable impact that effort's provided? Are you seeing an improvement in maybe the right type of driver applying, or how is that translating, or is it yet? Because I know it's relatively new, it seems.
Yeah, we actually, last year, Valentine's Day, is, if you go back far enough, is when we kind of started really trying to build the culture and show that in the videos and make sure that it came from there's funny parts, there's relevant parts with social media, and then there's a connection part. And we all kind of brainstorm together, and I usually come up with the truck one of me playing with the trucks that came out the other day, and obviously I'm gonna be a leprechaun for St. Patrick's Day because I'm the short guy with the beard, so I get that. It's like I'm perfect for that. But yeah, we've actually had new customers reach out that have seen our social media, and we look like a good company to work for. And not only customers, but drivers all the time. Like, this is Jason from the video. Yeah, the beard. Okay, good. I got the right person. Hey, man, I just want to tell you I'd like blah, 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 blah. And not only is it a great talking point, but people feel like they know me. And that's huge. Before they even call, they feel like they know me and they know Stokes. And you can't duplicate that, or it's worth its weight in gold.
Yep. Yeah, 100% agree. Video certainly helps with that. Conversations like this, when they, get to see and watch, they say, hey, that seems like somebody I can trust, or, seems trustworthy. I mean, that's just how that works. And it's powerful. I do want to switch gears back to fitness again, because knowing you, I'd like your take on what we as an industry can do better to address the statistic that's just hitting us right between the eyes. And that's the fact that the average life expectancy of a CDL driver is 61 years old. What do you think needs to happen so we can move that needle, closer to the national average, which is like 16 years higher than that?
Yeah, food is the biggest one, what they have for options, but moving your body, did you know that at the age of 30, your muscle starts to deteriorate, and you can put that off until you're like 60, 65 just by lifting weights. And that's huge. So one of the things I wanted to implement, and they wanted here, like when we're in interview process, is a wellness program. So it's called Doable Wellness, that we've tied to our insurance, and every month they can go and log on, and not only do they get the mental, which is just as important as physical, the EAP is part of that. There's in the Doable Wellness, there's a dinner hub, which gives them dinner ideas and shopping lists. They can add it right to their cart for what things that look good, of healthy recipes, stuff that are under 700 calories. And then they get points each month to get $300 put in their HSA by Stokes. So in order to do that, there's things worth points that they have to get 1,200 points. So are they getting 7 hours of sleep? Are they drinking 80 ounces of water? Are they moving their body 3 times a week for half an hour? Are they meditating? Is there stretching, yoga? That counts as part of it. Cooking the meals, if they cook 3 meals a week, they get points for it. So all these things that create a healthy lifestyle and habits, they can get $300 into their HSA for. So just by getting points for that. And I think to get the ball rolling, you almost have to incentivize it, but when it's all said and done, $3,600 could be in their HSA for who knows what. And that's real money. And sometimes people just need to see a pant size lower, or 10 minutes more of walking, or a heart rate lower. There's so many non-scale victories that people don't pay attention to, that if they started looking at it, it really pays off. Just walking is so good for you. 10,000 steps plus.
Yeah, just to your point, when you start doing it consistently and you realize, hey, I feel pretty damn good. You know what I mean? That's something you should pay attention to, because it's real, and it makes sense. I know we've got enough time for our deeper dive question here, so I am going to go ahead and dive into that. And today's deeper dive question is brought to you by National Transportation Institute, and the question is: we are finally starting to adopt technology to streamline our hiring. What's the best solution for managing the entire process? Now, I'm biased to be transparent with my involvement with Driverreach, but your thoughts are not necessarily even about that, but just, I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think?
Well, I'll go to my stats real quick. I have systemize, maximize outreach to qualified candidates, source passive candidates, get direct leads. Direct leads are your best friend. So many people promise so many things out there, and they're recycled leads that aren't qualified. And they're a waste of everybody's time. So, a big number that I like to say what I've used, and I'll even shamelessly plug you, Jeremy, for Driverreach, is our conversion rate from application to hire of our direct leads is 15%. Now, I'm going to say that I disqualify 60% of those because maybe they don't have 2 years of experience or they have more moving violations. So that leaves me with 40% that fits. I'm going to disqualify another 10% because all they want is local. So that's leaving me with 30. So that's giving me 50% higher rate of the pool that are directly hiring for Stokes Trucking. And they're not being pimped out to anybody else, and they're not being, nobody even knows who these guys are. So I have my own secrets of how I get those direct leads. I pride myself in spending very little and getting very good candidates. And I do that myself. And when those come in, they're directly people I've talked to. They put in the application. So now I'm hiring 50% of those ones that are qualified to work for us. So I think, once you have that qualified candidate on the phone, ABC, always be closing. Work towards orientation date. If you're a good fit for each other. And that's the other thing. Swallow your pride. Don't bring somebody in the door. My retention rate is more important to me than my hire rate. And that needs to be, I would like to see that culture change in this industry too.
Yeah, excellent point, and well said. So first of all, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate your constant drive, man. You are, like I said, you're a beast, and
I appreciate that.
and I love it. So love your passion for the industry. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'll keep growing the. So this is my beard. It's sober and till I qualified for Boston. So that's why I look homeless. So I don't need food. I just need to qualify for Boston.
Well, with all the exercise you do, you probably do need food. You probably need a lot more calories than the average person.
That's very true.
And thanks for joining
Jeremy.
me.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Taking the Higher Road. Stay tuned for the next episode as guest host Leah Shaver is joined by Avery Weiss, Vice President with FTR Transportation Intelligence. And once again, special thanks to the sponsors of the show. We really appreciate you. If you're interested in being a sponsor or joining me for an interview, please email Jeremy at takingthehigherroad.com. Until next time, thank you for taking the higher road.